You know, I only know one way. And I know it's my solution for everything. But it's the truth. When we live here, we're always doubting ourselves. Because there's always this yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And everything's based in our image. What will people think? Is it going to go well? Am I good enough? And it drives us crazy. And humans are constantly doing that. Worrying about what other people think, worrying about the future, wondering if they're good enough. So everything comes from that point. So this is why it's so vital that we start to live here. We start to live in a place of peace and joy. Because from that place comes trust. From that place comes security. From that place comes the capacity to flow. Everything positive comes from that place. Because this is the house of love. And this is duality. It's always got the two aspects. The fear and the trust. And then the fear and then the trust. And then the fear and then the trust. When we're here, it just comes from here. And we start to trust implicitly in ourselves. So we have to cultivate that. You have to cultivate that internal unity. So you trust. And also, when you have this, you realize that in reality, you can't make a mistake. You're just having an experience. And you're seeing yourself grow. You know, people think it's about the goal. But it's not. It's about the path. It's about the experience. It's about the evolution, what you learn, how you evolve, how you create, what you give, how you relate. It's not just about the top of the mountain. Because once that's finite. Once you get there, it's like, oh, and now what? The whole path has to be of self-discovery. And yes, sometimes it's frightening. It's hard to trust in yourself or think you're good enough. And that's another reason you need this. Because this gives you courage to move forward. You know, even though you're worried, you have the power to keep moving. When you're here, you're just like this. I don't know. Yes, no. And then you ring 20 people and half say yes and half say no. Because it's duality. And also, when you have consciousness, you're lighter about everything. Yeah. It's not life and death. It's just a fun or an experience. Oh, well, I did that. It was amazing. Oh, I did that. Oh, well, I don't think I'll do it again. But it's not a big deal. Huh?
I want to know about the egos.
You have more than one? Wow.
I think there are much more than what I think. And it's a little bit camouflage sometimes.
You know, an ego is just fear. It's a place where you don't feel good enough. So it's either a little voice telling you you're not good enough, or it's another voice pretending to be larger than life. You know, it's all the same thing. Because what's missing? Authenticity. You just being happy to be you. Not having to prove something, not having to look a certain way, not to have to get approval. Just the authenticity for you to be you. Like you. You don't have a problem, do you? Where's Betchy? Yeah. Authenticity. That's all you have to be. Willing to be you. No matter how that looks. That's unconditional love. And freedom, no?
My question is, I would like you to talk about the difference in between doing and being.
Well, there's a big difference. Because you can be doing lots of things and be completely out of yourself. Disconnected, running in circles, losing yourself, chasing addictions. Beingness is anchored in consciousness. It's present. It's enjoying each moment. It's giving in each moment. So we have to take the being into the doing. Consciousness in action. We have to become consciousness in action. Not just the action, but consciously moving within that space. Present moment awareness. And this is what we're doing with the witnessing. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're practicing to be here now, to be anchored in this moment, to be completely present with you and with the environment. When people are communicating, you're completely here. You're not looking at someone thinking about the weekend. You're actually present. The moment you start being, everything changes because you're present. And that's the difference. And it's a big difference. I used to do. I was always trying to run away from myself. Running towards tomorrow. Forgetting about yesterday. Just go. Achieve. And it was so empty. Because you can't even appreciate what you're doing. Because nothing's ever good enough. In the doing. In the being, you can start to see what you're generating, how lovely everything is, how special everyone is. It's another world, a completely different world. Here now.
I'm a professor that works with children from 3 to 18 of artistic skating. Artistic skate?
Oh, on the ice or normal?
No, 4 ruedas.
Okay.
Wow. That one. In the moment of competitions, I can see the normal nervousness of the competition of my students, no? And I feel I have the tools, but I don't know how to apply, because the ages are teenagers, are all sorts of ages. So the little one, they take it very light, like fun, and the grown-up, no. So I'm not sure how to behave with them.
You know, I think the important thing is to teach them to enjoy themselves. You know, because within the competition they use sight of that. Tell them to be more like the little
Diles
ones,
que sea que imiten más a las chiquitinas,
to just have fun.
simplemente se diviertan.
You know, this is a problem with
Ese es
sports.
el problema con los deportes.
We make them into life and death situations. We have to win, we have to do this, we have to do that. And we stop enjoying. And parents put pressure on the children too.
Que ponen tanta presión sobre los hijos
You know, and they're skating.
y están simplemente patinando.
You know, but it becomes this high
Transforman
tension.
en esta gran tensión
And it takes all the
y
joy.
le quita toda la dicha.
So I think you have to keep explaining that to
Que
them.
tienes que seguir explicando eso a ellos.
You know, and a lot of that must generate from the teacher
Y
too.
mucho de eso también se genera de la maestra.
If you're
Si
exigente,
tú eres exigente,
it projects onto
se
them.
proyecta en ellos.
So you need to be lighter.
Así que tú tienes que ser más liviana también.
And then they'll enjoy
Y
themselves.
después ellos van
And that's when they're the best.
ya es ahí cuando van a ser lo mejor de sí mismos.
You know, their natural talent comes out
Talento natural
and the
de
freedom to
ellos
create
y la libertad de crear.
because they feel
Y
free.
se sienten libres de hacerlo.
So you have to teach them that.
Así que tienes que enseñarles eso.
Mm. And you could learn to teach the system if you're a teacher,
Y si eres maestra, puedes aprender en algún momento a enseñar el sistema.
and you could teach them that too.
Y puedes enseñarles eso también.
I always had the theory that love in a relationship is a decision.
You're very romantic, aren't you? You will love me. I've decided. Now, love me now.
Ámame ahora,
It's your decision.
tu decisión.
No, Isha, in the sense that I don't believe that love ends, but it's the lack of, if both decide loving each other, they are going to be loving each other.
And what's the question?
¿Cuál es la pregunta?
If it's a decision or not. To love somebody is a decision.
I think to commit to the relationship
Me parece que el comprometerse a la relación,
is a decision.
esa es la decisión.
And I guess in order to do that,
Supongo que para poder hacer eso,
it must be because you feel
debe
love
ser porque sientes amor
or
o
attraction.
atracción. por
The
esa
commitment's the
persona.
decision.
Pero el compromiso es la decisión.
I don't know about the feeling.
No sé acerca del sentir.
The feeling has to be there
Que
first.
el sentir tiene que estar primero. tiene que
Whether
estar
you nurture that or not
más allá de que nutras eso,
is a decision.
esa es la decisión.
But the initial
Pero la
attraction
atracción inicial,
is a bit more than that,
eso es más que una decisión.
you know.
Bueno, yo, la verdad es que mi vida ha cambiado mucho desde
My life since my 6 months changed so much, tremendously.
lo que más agradezco
And what I'm more grateful is the relationship with my mom, with my family also.
Y yo te quiero preguntar,
And I want to ask you,
¿cómo puedo conocerme
how can I know myself more? How,
más allá?
how to go beyond, how to love myself more.
You know, when we do the 6 months,
Cuando hacemos los 6 meses,
it's a complete change.
es un cambio completo.
It's so
Es
intense.
tan intenso.
We do 180 degrees, no?
Hacemos un cambio de 180 grados.
And from that point onwards,
Desde ese punto nace la
you are just evolution in action.
Tú eres evolución en acción.
Because all the brute stuff,
Porque en realidad todo lo bruto,
all the
toda
separation,
la separación,
that incapacity to
esa
love
incapacidad de amar,
or receive love,
recibir amor,
all of that falls away.
eso cae.
And you start loving
Y
yourself.
empiezas a amarte a ti.
And once you have that
Una
experience,
vez que logras tener esa
because it's a big
experiencia,
experience,
porque es una gran experiencia,
you want more.
después quieres más,
But that will keep
pero
happening.
eso va a seguir sucediendo.
You just have to stay focused,
Tienes que mantenerte enfocado,
connected.
conectado.
You know, you're a
Tú
facilitator.
eres un facilitador.
You're always coming to give
Estás siempre
service.
viniendo a hacer servicio.
And that keeps you growing very
Eso
quickly.
te mantiene creciendo muy rápidamente.
I think the most important
Creo
thing
que la cosa más
is to
importante
be communicating with people with
es estar
consciousness,
comunicándose constantemente con personas en
which you
conciencia.
are.
Y tú haces eso.
And I think you just need to appreciate how much you've
Creo que tienes que
changed,
apreciar cuánto has cambiado,
how much you give,
cuánto das,
and how much you've evolved.
cuánto has evolucionado.
You know, the thing is, You guys
Ustedes, chicos,
are with groups of
están
people
con grupos de personas
doing something phenomenal.
haciendo algo fenomenal.
You know, coming for 6 months to completely change yourself.
Meses para cambiarse completamente.
These are not normal
No
people.
son personas normales.
These are extraordinary
Son
people.
personas extraordinarias.
And you go into very high levels of
Y entran en
consciousness
niveles muy altos de conciencia
that doesn't exist in the
que no
world.
existen en el
It's
mundo.
not common.
No es algo común.
And you need to
Y necesitan
be very conscious of
ser
that.
muy conscientes de eso.
How we think
El cómo nosotros pensamos
is completely different
completamente diferente
to how
a cómo
normal people
la
function.
gente normal funciona.
And you need to be constantly appreciating that
Necesitas
aspect
estar
of yourself
constantemente apreciando ese aspecto de ti
and giving that.
y dando eso.
You know, I give consciousness all the
Yo doy
time.
conciencia todo el tiempo.
I don't care where I
No me
am.
importa dónde yo esté.
I could be in the
Puedo
Emirates.
estar en los Emiratos,
I could be in a spiritual
puedo estar en
conference.
una conferencia espiritual,
I could be in Nuevo
puedo
Rumbo.
estar en Nuevo Rumbo.
It doesn't make any
En realidad no
difference
hace ninguna diferencia.
because people feel
Porque las personas
consciousness.
sienten la conciencia.
And that's the greatest
Y
gift,
ese es el regalo mayor.
is you can be giving that.
Que puedes estar dando eso.
Sometimes you don't even have to say
A
anything.
veces ni siquiera necesitas decir algo.
So you are always evolving.
Así que tú estás siempre evolucionando.
Isha, sabemos que tú integras el Foro Mundial para la Paz.
We know that you're part of the World Forum for Peace.
Dada la violencia intrafamiliar,
The violence, interfamily, interpersonal, in groups, everywhere. How can you stop the violence in all the areas and groups? And schools, high schools, in the jails, everywhere.
You know, we look at these places.
Nosotros miramos estos lugares.
People go to war at the dinner table.
Las personas arman una guerra en la mesa, en la cena, durante la cena.
The need to be
Esa
recognized.
necesidad de ser reconocido,
The need to be
la
loved.
necesidad de ser amado,
The need to be told you're
la
right.
necesidad de que te digan que estás en lo correcto.
It starts in such a small area.
Eso empieza en áreas que son tan chiquitas.
And that's where we grow.
Y es ahí donde crecemos.
Because we're all looking externally.
Estamos todos buscando lo externo.
And that's the only problem there
Y
is.
ese es el único problema que existe.
Once people learn
Una vez que las personas aprenden
that to love themselves
más de sí,
is fundamental for loving their lives,
fundamental para amar su vida,
everything will change.
todo va a cambiar.
There'll be no lack.
No va a haber carencia.
They'll need no more
No
protection.
se necesita más protección.
Because people that love themselves
Personas que se aman a sí mismas
don't commit the atrocities that transpire on this
no
planet.
van a cometer las atrocidades que suceden en el planeta.
People that love themselves
Personas que se aman a sí
don't
mismas
destroy the
no
environment.
destruyen el medio ambiente.
People that love themselves
Personas que se aman a sí mismas
don't abuse other
no
people.
abusan de otras personas.
People that love
Se aman a
themselves
sí mismos.
don't have that
No
violence.
tienen esa violencia.
So there's only one
Así que
solution,
solo hay una solución.
and that's the evolution of
Y esa es la
consciousness.
evolución de la
And that's the responsibility of each
Esa es la
person.
responsabilidad de cada persona.
For me,
Para mí,
education's the most
la
important.
educación es lo más importante.
We have to sustain what the children already
Es
have,
sostener aquello que los niños naturalmente tienen.
nurture that,
Nutrir eso.
allow them to keep that
Permitirles que conserven eso.
instead of looking
En vez
externally
de que estén esperando todo
or
lo que
abandoning
que
themselves
se abandonen
or
a sí
trying to
mismos,
be like someone
o
else
que traen
or not feeling good
traten de
enough
ser como alguien
or
más,
bullying
o no ser
and not having the
suficientemente
capacity to move their
bueno, o
emotions
hacer bullying y no poder mover sus emociones,
or the capacity to communicate.
o la capacidad para comunicarse.
That's fundamental.
Eso es fundamental.
And once the children have
Una
that,
vez que los niños tienen eso,
the parents start to
los
change.
padres van a empezar a cambiar.
You know, if you've got a child
Si tú tienes un niño
that's been educated to recycle,
que está educado en reciclar,
for example,
por ejemplo,
they give no peace to the parents
no los dejan en paz a los padres
until they're recycling.
hasta que reciclan todo.
And it's the same with love
Y es lo mismo con el amor
or consciousness or
o
focus.
con el foco.
At some
En
point,
algún punto,
because it's the highest
porque es una
vibration,
vibración tan alta,
it starts to penetrate everything.
empieza a penetrar todo.
But unfortunately,
Pero
we
desafortunadamente,
quash that innocence.
nosotros aplastamos esa
that individuality, that perfection. We don't nurture that. We're telling them that they need to change, that there's something wrong with you, that you should be more like your brother or you should be more like me because I'm so happy. And, you know, you need to change. And don't cry and don't be angry because men don't cry and women certainly don't get angry. And we've got all these stupid rules. And if the children just had the capacity to move their emotions, they'd never get depressed, they'd never become violent, they wouldn't be having temper tantrums all the time, they'd be taking responsibility for themselves. So it starts there. But for us, it starts with us. And that's what's so important. What am I being? Am I being authentic? Am I loving myself? That's your first goal.